Welcome to Straight Talk with my OBMD podcast. Join me for a bi-weekly discussion on topics most relevant to women's health today. We are your source for medically accurate, real-world advice and all things related to your health and well-being as a woman. From menses to menopause, we've got you covered. I'm your host, Dr. Dana Smith, a fully practicing, board-certified OBGYN physician with close to 20 years experience. I am also the founder of the website that is 100% dedicated to women's health, myobmd.org. At myobmd.org, we write on all aspects related to women's health. Listen to our podcast, visit our website, subscribe to our newsletter, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, myobmd.org. So welcome to another episode of Straight Talk with My OBMD. I'm your host, Dr. Dana Smith, proud founder of myobmd.org, the website where we are 100% dedicated to you and your health. We are a nonprofit website. We are publishers of women's health information. Everything you see, hear, and listen to on our podcast, as well as on our website, are all authored by physicians. So you can trust the information that you are receiving on MyOBMD. Today, on this episode of Straight Talk with My OBMD, we are talking to Dr. Amanda Adkins, and I am so happy and excited to have a chat with Dr. Adkins. Dr. Adkins is a physician who is a medical doctor and who has a passion for nutrition and how that relates to our mental health and well-being and stress and lifestyle factors as it relates to our chronic illnesses. So Dr. Adkins, thank you so much for being on Straight Talk with My OBMD, and I'll allow you to introduce yourself further to our audience, please.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I am Dr. Amanda Adkins. I am a board certified physician in both internal medicine and lifestyle medicine. And my passion is to help women who have chronic illnesses to either get off or reverse their chronic illnesses with just lifestyle changes and hopefully not need a whole lot of medications. So.
Okay, very good. And, as physicians, we know that sometimes medicines are necessary, but we are strong believers in the fact that even if medication is necessary, lifestyle factors can still play a significant role, can reduce the amount of medicines that you take, the number of medicines that you take, and still improve your overall health. So, Dr. Adkins, how did you get started on this journey of, you are an internal medicine physician, but how did you kind of decide that, hey, I've noticed a connection here between the nutrition and the health of my patients and their mental health and well-being?
I would say it started with my own health and well-being. So me even becoming a doctor started from me being 12 years old, wanting to just learn about the way the human body works. I just thought it was fascinating. And I myself was an overweight teenager. And so my first, I would say, experiment would be on myself to learn how to prevent chronic illnesses in myself because it ran so much in my family. So I just started doing things like exercising, and I became a vegetarian at the age of 16. And it's funny that I became a vegetarian because at the time my father was a meat delivery truck driver. So we were eating hot dogs, bologna, sausage, bacon, which we're going to talk about why those aren't good. But that was the things there. So as I learned more about plant-based eating, vegetarianism and veganism, learning how it can actually affect our health and wellness, and just later on actually seeing that it actually can also affect our mood and how we're feeling. It just was just like life-changing to me because I'm just like, okay, so everything that I've actually learned for myself is actually helping
Mhm.
not just my physical body, but also my mental health. So,
Mm.
and I always stress the importance to patients and clients that we're all one being. We can't separate our physical from our mental. So
Mhm.
if one helps for the other, that's two for one.
Awesome, awesome. And that relationship, now the relationship between exercise and weight that has well been established. We all are familiar with that link. And even with mental health and stress and things of that nature and genetics that has been established. How did you link your mood to the foods that you were eating? How did that link come? How did that connection progress?
So that was more, I actually worked with a nutritionist and she had a program. And again, I was looking more for how can I keep my weight off? How can I just be physically fit? And
Mm-hmm.
she actually had us journal how we felt when we were eating certain foods, like when we before we started the program, and then how we were feeling during the program, and then if we added back in certain foods, how were we feeling after? So you kind
Mm-hmm.
of got to see
Mm,
how you transition and just to be aware of how food actually affects how you feel, because a lot of people don't put those two things together. They're just like, oh
mm-hmm.
well, I'll just do this and it'll be okay. I'll eat this donut, I'll drink all this
Mm-hmm.
caffeine, whatever it, just to keep going. But it actually does affect how you're feeling at that time, and then of course for long term to come. So it was just eye opening for me to see at that time, because I didn't put it together initially either until she actually
Mm-hmm.
made us like sit down and actually do that type of work.
Wow. So journaling was a part of that progress. So is
Yes.
that something that you still recommend to your patients currently to journal to see how they feel?
Oh, yes. It is, because it still makes a big difference, even for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I, even though I may not write down all the foods that I eat pretty much the same thing. So, but I can always tell when I'm getting off track, because I'm like, I feel lower, I feel less energy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, what have I been eating this week? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this explains why. I had pizza the
Mm-hmm.
other day, and I'm like, oh, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm dragging and just low, and
Gotcha.
it's just interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
could just
Mm-hmm.
say that it correlates so well, and if people actually like do that, especially if you eat different types of foods all the time, that you can actually pinpoint certain foods that just make you feel more energized and more
Mm-hmm.
happy
Mm-hmm.
versus down and low energy and sluggish.
Mm-hmm. Now, are there certain food groups in general, or are there groups in general that typically you can find a certain response with a positive or negative, or is it a food item? Is it dependent more on each individual to determine for themselves what foods would work for them or do not work for them?
So, I mean, there's some foods in general that we think that would cause people to have, an improved mood versus a depressed mood or decreased
Hmm.
mood. So plants, I'm a plant-based person, so I always emphasize
Hmm.
that. So the more plant-based foods you eat, the less likely you are to have a lower mood or feel more anxious. So eating
Hmm.
our whole foods. So I say whole grains,
Hmm.
leafy green vegetables, your fruits. Like I love the berries. I just had some blueberries this morning. So those types of things you can actually find that your mood lifts up compared to
Hmm.
if we eat processed foods. Like I said, I was eating pizza, it's processed, that actually can
Hmm.
actually lower our mood down or makes us feel more anxious. So
Hmm.
if you look at that, that would be in general for everybody, almost like you can almost pinpoint that people will feel that way if they actually are truthful with themselves, that they would
Hmm.
feel a little bit different if they eat different types of food groups.
Gotcha. So, do we know what it is about those food groups that cause depression or are the food groups that does not cause depression? Do we know, can we pinpoint what it is that causes that the mood factor? Is there some relationship to our dopamine release or do we not know yet on that molecular level what is going on?
So I don't know that we know exactly, and it's not necessarily like it's causing it, like it's not a direct cause and effect type
Mm,
relationship.
okay.
But I mean, I guess we would say it's like association with it. It's not a direct cause. So
Mm-hmm.
most of the time we'll look at inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
which is big now, that we talk about. So processed foods, foods that are high in fats, trans fats, are like refined sugars,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature causes us to have chronic inflammation, and it actually, helps us have a decreased mood. So just like chronic inflammation is linked to a lot of illnesses, decreased amount of fiber. So if we eat a lot of processed foods, a lot of sugars, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
where it's where we don't have the plants, then that messes up like our gut bacteria also,
Mm-hmm.
and then that
Mm-hmm.
leads to like chronic inflammation also.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then with chronic inflammation, it affects the brain, and then also it can decrease, like I think they think serotonin levels. So most of the
Mm-hmm.
medications that we use for depression or anxiety
Mm-hmm.
is to help increase serotonin. So those are the only things that I realize. I mean, I'm not deep into all that, but that's just from what I've read of different things of
Gotcha.
how it may affect the body.
Okay, okay. So that is interesting because of course we know that also inflammation, I know even on a personal level, inflammation is very much associated with that pain, whether the joint pain, the back pain, and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. And of course, pain also affects our mood. So that could also be a factor as well. And again, like you said, just the energy level that you have, like if you just have a low energy and not really motivated to have certain activities, which we know some activities can boost our moods, and by not engaging in those activities, that may also impact our mood. So I can see how it can affect that mental state on so many different levels. Like you said, not necessarily a direct cause and effect, but the
Mm-hmm.
association because of the downward spiral of what happens after you eat these processed foods. So, I remember when the health food, when we first as a society started like looking at healthy foods, I think was in the 80s or 90s. And the big craze was, organic, right? So it's always like, okay, you got to make sure everything's like organic, organic, organic. And that was really the distinction that was made between traditional foods versus the newly discovered health foods. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that it's important to shop organic, to purchase organic content, food sources in order to maintain that wellness?
I would say no. You don't have to have organic. Okay. So
Okay.
because a lot of people, when they're talking about eating healthier, they always talk about the cost. And then they always would say why they would not necessarily eat a healthy
Mm-hmm.
food because of the
Mm-hmm.
cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell them, if you're going to buy organic, it would be the
Mm-hmm.
foods that you're going to eat often, like every day, several times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you can kind of balance out. And if you're first starting out, I never tell people they need to buy organic, because the first
Mm-hmm.
thing we want to do is just actually get you eating more of the plant-based foods that have the natural antioxidants in there, all the phytonutrients, the
Mm-hmm.
fiber that you need that can actually boost your mood
Mm-hmm.
itself. Then as we, upgrade, we can go on
Mm-hmm.
to organic if we want. Like I tell people what I do. So like the berries, apples, fruits, leafy greens, since I eat a lot of those, I buy organic. But like for my beans and lentils and things that I buy in packages or in
Mm-hmm.
bulk, I don't necessarily buy organic that way, because I'm not necessarily eating that all day every day. But the
Mm-hmm.
fruits and the leafy greens I am. So
Mm-hmm.
I just try to balance that out for people, but I don't think that you necessarily see a lesser benefit if it's not organic foods
Mm-hmm.
for mood.
Gotcha. Okay. So So, for instance, when folks grocery shop and you mention cost, and of course everybody is has a heightened sense of cost in today's economy, and people, yes, people, I hear that a lot myself. People always say, "Oh, it just costs so much more to eat healthy," and I say, yes, that's true and not true,
Right.
right? Because
Hmm.
the packaged goods that are processed, we're really paying for the package a
Hmm.
lot.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then the Whole Foods, especially if you're able to get to a Whole Food market where there's less packaging, then, if you buy, like, for instance, your beans that are not in a can, or your nuts that are not necessarily packaged with the pretty packaging,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, then that can actually go quite a way in reducing the cost of that particular item.
Yes.
So there are ways, I think, in that you can actually eat healthy and have it decrease the cost if it's really you're just kind of going down to the raw food item and not
Y-
necessarily purchasing the nicely
Yes.
packaged items.
That is so
So,
true. That is so true.
yeah, I always pay attention to the cost of how much am I paying for this food versus the package.
Hmm.
So,
Exactly, exactly. Because if you get just plain beans, you that goes a long way, and
mhm,
it's like $1 or something, and definitely less than a bag of chips or hot
right.
dogs or something like that. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, there are definitely ways. And of course there's the factor of the convenience, right? People talk
hmm.
about convenience a lot, like, oh my gosh, it's so much faster to just buy the restaurant type food. Can you speak a little bit on that and how if you're just stressed for time, let's say, and the cost is not necessarily a factor, how is it that you can still make those choices when you're pressed for time?
So the first thing I would see, if you have a day, so meal prep is big for me, that you
Hmm.
can actually prep your meals for the week. This is the season where crock pots can be used a lot. So you can, throw food in the crock pot. It can, get done while you're at work.
Hmm.
If money is not an issue, you can always use different food delivery services. There are a lot of food delivery
Hmm.
services that will pre or meal prep for you. And I've
Hmm.
actually done that. And you can actually get a like personal chef
Hmm.
that will make food for you too. So I've done all those different things. And people's
Hmm.
like, oh, you're a doctor, you can afford that. But no, like I actually went and sought out a lady that likes to cook. And she was like, I want to try, different vegan and plant-based things. Will you work with me? So we negotiated a little stuff there. So you can do that. And there's so many people that are now more aware of how much food plays in different illnesses, mental and physical health, that you would be surprised at the people
Hmm.
that you can work with to get different foods put together. Also, if you're
Hmm.
looking for ways that are convenient, like you mentioned, Whole Foods, they have like a hot bar. You can go there and like pick different foods. I've done that a lot. And you just get, like your salad together. Then they have like some quinoa and like some
Hmm.
beans, tofu, and you can like put together a meal like that because it's already prepared. And you can actually look at the
Hmm.
ingredients that's already on the that's in there, so you know that you're not getting a lot of like oils and extra sugars
Hmm.
and fats,
Hmm.
and put together a meal like that. So
Hmm.
again, I've done all these different things that you can try depending on convenience of life at the time.
Hmm.
You can even use certain restaurants, which is like pushed down, but and then pick like the healthier options there, and then combine that with something else too.
Hmm.
So you can cook a little something at home, and then
Hmm.
combine that with something that you grab quickly. So
Wow.
it's so many ways that people can do things. So
Right.
whenever someone comes up with a reason of why not, I say, sure you can. Let's
It's
figure out a way.
less, and that is so true. It really is based on the level of motivation of the person, and I can speak to that from personal experience. And it's so funny because you mentioned the use of the chef, which sounds fantastic. And I would imagine that I don't cook with salt. So I would be afraid that, oh my God, I'm not going to get a chef because so many people cook with salt, right? And I'm thinking, oh
Yeah.
my, I'm not trying to introduce salt in my diet. But you're right. If you can find someone who will honor
Mm-hmm.
the things that you value, and they
Yes.
themselves are trying to improve the health of the foods that they're
Mm-hmm.
serving, then it can absolutely work. So yes, I can see that. And I did not know about the hot bars at the grocery store. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. So if someone listening here has a Whole Foods, check it out. There's some not healthy foods on there too, but you can choose the healthy
Sure.
ones.
Yeah. So when we're on the road, because road trips are just such a part of life in this. So when you're on the road, and that is such a vulnerable time of for us to kind of go astray from healthy eating because of the food choices. So rather than stopping at the pizza shop or the burger joint, maybe think about stopping at the grocery store
Right.
and having getting your meal there, because not only do they have a selection of hot menu items, but then you also have the fruits that
Mm-hmm.
you can pop in and buy, just kind of wash it with the water from your water bottle. And
Right.
so you can really put together something healthy, even though it's different, right? Than
Mm-hmm.
what we're used to when we're on the road. But yes, you're right. There's just so many different options. So we thank you for that. And that's where we're going to pause. For now, that is. I'm sure you're eager to hear the rest. So don't forget to subscribe so you get notified as soon as part 2 is out. We're going to dive even deeper, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. See you then. Thank you for listening to another episode of Straight Talk with My OBMD podcast. To learn more about this topic, visit our website at myobmd.org. Subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I can't wait to spend more time with you on our next episode of Straight Talk with My OBMD.